enjoying orange slices with Jeff and Ian. This week it's just Ian. That's right. Jeff is busy doing some family things, and I had a guest set up. So I said, you know what, Jeff, I'm going to do it on my own. He said, Ian, do it on your own. And then I said, I really want to do it. And I said, Jeff, I have to do it. So this week I'm going to interview Al Murdoch. Al Murdoch is the in stadium voice of the Vancouver Canucks. He's got one of the best voices ever. He's got great stories. He was part of the new 3-on-3 league this summer. I think there was 9 weekends or something like that. I can't remember what it was. He'll tell us the stories all about it. He's a good guy, loves being a Canuck. Good Canadian kid, started out as a goaltender, ended up as a voice. Anyways, I was just in Seattle, went to the Seattle Kraken game versus the Vancouver Canucks this weekend, and it was fantastic. I'm going to be honest with you. Great building. My favorite part about the building is that it's so low. There's certain areas where you cannot see the clock. I love that. Reminds me of the old Montreal Stadium when I used to go there every so often. I'd go see a game, and you'd sit up high enough that they had built on that you were above the clock. So they had to put TVs up so you could see the clock, and it looked like that in Seattle. So made me happy. Vancouver, horrible. I'm going to be honest with you. I know it's a preseason, but they were horrible. Shane Wright, on the other hand, fantastic. I went there to watch the Canucks, and I ended up watching Shane Wright. I was there for a period and a half, and I couldn't take my eyes off the kid. The kid was all over. The confidence on him, it was just amazing. I know some hockey fans in here would like to hear Jeff's sound on it. I was Pearl over there lying on the bed. But it was great. It was great. It was great to see a kid that was rated so high up and fell down to where he fell, prove to me, the way I watched the game, was showing that he is worth the reason he was rated number 1 for so long. So that was fantastic. A little bit about me. I got coming up, just hanging out in LA for a couple weeks, but then I got San Antonio at the LOL Comedy Club, the Laugh Out Loud Comedy Club. And then I also got Hermosa Beach on October 20th. And the last weekend in October, I'm at Sacramento at the Sacramento Punchline. And then the first week of November, I will be at Chicago Zanies downtown. Might even go see a game right over there. Anyways, let's get to this interview. Show's brought to you by Super Deeker. You want to buy something from Super Deeker, go ahead. We don't care. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, do it. Let's see. Let's go to Al Murdoch right now. In stadium voice for the Vancouver Canucks. Thanks, everybody. Our guest today, Jeff isn't here, I call him mine, is if you've been to a Vancouver Canucks game in the last 11 years, you've heard his voice. I like to call him the voice of the Vancouver Canucks. It's Al Murdoch. Big hand for Al. Hello, Al.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Such a good voice. As soon as you start to talk, I just get excited. Something's going to happen. And before the show's over, I'm going to get you to say so I can record it and use it. 1 minute left.
I can do that. Sure.
Awesome. That's my favorite part of going to a game. I'll always look at the clock around then. I'll try to get around a minute 10. I'll go, I wonder how much time's left.
Last minute of play in the first period.
Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness. Did you grew up in Canada? Were you a hockey player?
I was a hockey player. Grew up, was born in the lovely town of Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Love it.
And froze my butt off for 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of crisscrossed all over the country as my father was moving up the corporate ladder. So, the family lived as far east as Halifax and as far west as where we are now in Vancouver.
What did your dad do? What was his job?
He was working for, at that time, Canadian General Electric.
Oh, really?
And, and then at one point we lived in Barrie, Ontario, which is a couple of hours outside of Toronto. Yeah. And I played hockey there. I was a goaltender.
No way.
Yes, I was.
Love it.
I was a goaltender up until the point where I could feel the pucks through my gear.
Like, I'm done.
Yeah, then I conveniently became a defenseman. Um, but I played hockey there in Barrie with Shane Corson.
No way, you did.
Yeah, which was kind of fun. And at that age, you know, what was I, like 9?
Uh-huh.
He was scoring 130 goals
Oh,
a season.
the way that I was going to ask, was he fantastic at that point?
Unbelievably good. And it was kind of interesting to see him transition as he grew up. When he got into junior, that's when he started, you know, changing his game a little bit. And of course, when he got into the National Hockey League, he was still a great goal scorer. But of course, he was one of those big guys that like to, you know, bang and crash, and a few fisticuffs here and there and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was kind of fun growing up as a kid.
Nice. Your voice, though, is Dad got a good voice on him? Are you in choir? Are you known for your voice when you're a child?
Yeah, I mean, my dad's got an unbelievable voice. He, you know, when you hear his answering machine at home, you kind of want to play it back again and again, because it's pretty good. Though he didn't want to do anything with that. I mean, he was a salesman for many years. And for me, when I was 6 years old, I remember, you know, in Winnipeg, my dad would bring home all the new gadgets, you know, like the radios and transistor radios. Okay, we're talking, you know, 69, 1970. So the latest transistor radio with hi-fi AM radio blasting through that little tiny speaker. Yeah. So he would bring home, you know, all of the new gadgets and record players and all that kind of stuff, stereos. So me and my sister could kind of test them out and stuff. And I remember him bringing this little transistor radio in a leather pouch, you know, with the speaker, with the, you know, cutout in the leather parts, you know, right in front of the speaker, and it had a little handle on it. So I maybe was ahead of my time, because I attached it to my bicycle handles and would drive it around the neighborhood listening to big, you know, I think it was, CKY, I think, in Winnipeg, and listening to a voice come out of that speaker. And I had an instant connection with that voice. I thought that voice was only talking to me, you know? And from that moment on, I think that's where my love of, you know, voice and communication and radio and television and then, you know, kind of where I'm at now, that's where it started. And you know,
you're not just a hockey announcer, you're also a voiceover actor, and you also call some games. But which was it first for you? Was it a love of the game and wanting to call the game, or being an announcer at the game, or was it, I want to go into entertainment, I want to be the radio guy?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be the radio guy from 6. And so when I graduated from high school, you know, it was either go the path that my parents wanted me to go on, which was to be a lawyer.
Why? Oh, you would have been a great lawyer with that voice, though. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I could command the attention of the jury.
A little Perry Mason. It's a little Perry Mason.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So it was either going down that path or going down the path that I really had a passion for. So right after high school, I think it was the second day after I graduated high school, I went down to CKNW, CFMI, which at the time was still in New Westminster on 815 McBride. And I went down there for every second day for 4 weeks until they gave me a job. Back when you could, you know, walk into a radio station, sit at the you know, at the front desk, talk to the receptionist, because I never got past the receptionist for 4 weeks, until, you know, finally somebody saw me and just said, what would you guys like, what do you want? And I go, well,
is that really they just finally said, what are you doing here?
Yeah. And I credit, his name is Dale Biot. He was the music director at CKNW and CFMI at the time. And it just so happened one of their operators, you know, the guys that would operate the control board during the talk shows and the hockey games, when Jim Robson, the great Jim Robson, was the voice of the Canucks back then. You know, there just happened to be an opening because somebody left, and they said, well, what kind of experience do you have? And I went, donut, nothing. But I said, I want to do this. Give me an opportunity. And he did. And that kind of just started my path, at least into radio and then into television. And then after leaving radio over 20 years ago, you know, getting into the voiceover business full time, in my home studio.
This is your home studio you're in right now?
Yes.
Oh, it's so great. I love voiceover actors. You guys are just, We don't even have to leave. You don't even have to leave home. It's so fantastic. It's just
Yeah,
great.
with technology, I can be live anywhere, right?
So you're in radio. What's your first full-time radio job?
Oh, well, of course, doing the all-night show.
Mm-hmm.
Once I left CKNW as an operator because I wanted to be on the air, I got a job at then Kiss FM, 97 Kiss FM. Soft.
Oh, man.
You have to say this: soft hits. Soft hits. Don't say it too fast.
No, yeah, don't say it too fast.
Well, yeah,
I dated her in high school.
So, I got an opportunity to get a job doing all nights at Kiss FM, and that lasted about, a year and a half. And I was kind of like Doc Harris was doing mornings, and Terry Reid was doing afternoons. These big, famous guys that you always, aspired to be, and they weren't going anywhere. So the program director at the time said, "Listen, if you want some more seasoning, you want a better shift, you're gonna have to move." He goes, "I got a position for you in Edmonton. You want to go to Edmonton?" And I said, well, I lived in Winnipeg. I can handle the cold. So, moved to Edmonton, was there I wanted to be there for 2 to 5 years. I was there for 11 months, got some seasoning. Dale Biot ended up being the new program director years later at Kiss FM and hired me right back.
No way.
Yeah, to do evenings. And that lasted for about a year and a bit until, the big conglomerate came in and bought our station along with a whole bunch of others and fired everybody. And then I was out of a job.
Did they become part of CKNW? Was CKNW when did they move downtown from New Westminster?
Well, yeah, they moved downtown they moved their studios down during Expo. Remember Expo 86?
Yeah.
And then they moved to what is called the Black Tower,
Right.
the TD building downtown. That would have been probably the late 90s. And that's when I was working at CFOX, CKLG. I was doing afternoon drives at the big, mighty AM 730 CKLG. So it's been a whirlwind. And then I left radio in 2000 when they changed format. The Vancouver Grizzlies left town, and I was doing PA for them. And then I just thought, it's a perfect time to dive into voiceover full time and see where that leads.
I forgot that you did for the Vancouver Grizzlies.
Yeah.
By any chance were you part of the documentary that they just made about their first ever draft pick, Grizzly? What was his name? Reeves.
Brian Reeves.
Big Country.
Yeah, Finding Big Country was Kat Jamie's last film that she did, in and around the Grizzlies. So that was like 2018, and she's just released a new film that just had its debut at the Vancouver International Film Festival this past weekend called The Grizzly Truth. And it's about the reasonings why the Grizzlies left town, but it's a much more about the personalities that were intertwined within the 6 years that the team was here. Steve Francis makes an appearance in the movie, which is quite interesting. And Steve came to the premiere along with Tony Massenberg and Antonio Harvey and George Lynch. And I went to the premiere, did the big intro like I used to do, and introduced Kat Jamie. It was just a wonderful day. And the movie, it's out on Crave, or will be out on Crave, and you have to see it. It's so good.
Crave is in Canada. It's kind of like our Hulu. It's kind of like Canada's Hulu is what it is. First of all, what was the real reason? Because I always heard it was they kind of overextended themselves building the new rink, and they just couldn't afford the team, and it didn't make as much money, so they had to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons, but there are so many reasons why the team left. But I think at the end of the day, when Michael Heisley came in and bought the team off of John McCaw, who was from Seattle and had the big cell phone businesses and stuff, and he had a long standing relationship with the Griffiths family and Arthur, who originally had the Canucks and Grizzlies, and then built, then GM Place, which is now Rogers Arena, with their own money, no help from anybody else. So kudos to Arthur for that. But John McCaw sold it to Michael Heisley, who said, I'm going to try to make it work here. But at the end of the day, our dollar was 63 cents.
I forgot that was the time when it was just tough, right?
Yeah. And again, Toronto was in, they had the same draft restrictions that we did. They had the same dollar that we did. But you got to remember, the people that owned the team at the time was part of the Ontario Teachers, Fund.
They had a little bit more deeper pockets. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had really deep pockets to keep it going. And unfortunately, Arthur and the Griffiths family, and then Michael Heisley moving in said, I just can't do this anymore. So, I'm going to move it to Memphis, and they've been there ever since.
Been there ever since. I don't know if they've made much more money. To be honest with you, I don't know. I think they may have done better eventually in Canada, in Vancouver, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll never know.
We'll never. I have a great story. This last summer, I get on a plane and I'm in row 2. Just humble bragging about my row 2. Wow. And there's a guy wearing a Grizzlies jersey, and I go, "Oh, hey, are you a big Vancouver Grizzlies fan?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" And I go, "Your shirt. It's a Grizzlies jersey. I haven't seen it and it's a Vancouver Grizzlies jersey. It's not, And he goes, "Oh, I don't. My people just put me in things every so often, and I wear them." And I go, "Who are your people?" He goes, "Oh, I'm in a band." And I go, "What band are you in?" He goes, "Wu-Tang." And it turned out to be Ghostface Killer from Wu-Tang.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And I have never felt more white in my life, saying, "Who do you play for? What do you do?" Oh.
No. But you see, I was in Europe over the summertime, and I saw Vancouver Grizzlies gear in Amsterdam.
Oh, that's awesome.
I saw it in Brighton, on the coast of the UK. I mean, it's still everywhere, because listen, I think that's still one of the best jerseys ever in the NBA. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. Do you think Vancouver? I know it's a hockey podcast, but we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks. We're here with Al, and he's talking about the Vancouver Grizzlies. But you think they'll ever get another basketball team again in Vancouver? Do you think it could work? It just the timing wasn't right.
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question. And when I say $1 billion, it's going to take $1 billion for someone to to buy a team. In terms of expansion, the NBA is not in a huge rush right now to expand, but when they do, that Vegas is on the radar, and that Seattle just
for
the
sure.
I-5 from where I am right now, is going to get a team again way before Vancouver does. So a lot of things really have to come into play for it ever to come back to Canada.
Let's go back to hockey. Let's go back to getting to see every home game. And 11 years you've been going to watch the games in a different position than everybody else. Do you wear it on your sleeve, or is it just a job?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I remember growing up, when I said we crisscrossed across the country, we lived, on the West Coast twice. The last time we never left. So my dad used to have season tickets for the Canucks through his work. So a lot of times you, of course, take clients and prospective clients and all that kind of stuff with them. But every once in a while, I get to go with them to a game. So we're talking early, 70s. So growing up with the Dennis Kearns and the Orland Kurtenbachs and the Gary Smiths, and so it was kind of ingrained, this is my team. Now, when I lived in Ontario, I wasn't a Leafs fan. I was actually a Flyers fan, because I was a goalie. Really? And Bernie Perrant was my guy. So when I moved out here, though, it was, and I'd become a defenseman, because again, the pucks started hurting. Right. So the Canucks are in my blood. So when the opportunity came in, the 2010, 2011 series, as they made the journey to the Stanley Cup final against Boston, and the opportunity came, it was like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't pinch myself enough,
right?
And it came under, not so good, terrible circumstances, because John Ashbridge, who, was my mentor, for many, many years, for over 30 years, was the voice of the Canucks at the Coliseum, and then GM Place, and then Rogers Arena since 1987. And back then, when I kind of came in, he had suffered a heart attack in the first round of the playoffs. And so I got a panic call. Can you come in and fill in for, as long as John is out? And of course, John, being the strong guy that he was, I did 2 games, and then he was right back into it. He had a pacemaker in there. he had I don't know, pig parts or whatever.
Funny.
But couldn't stop him from getting back to the rink. So he dived right back into it. They went to the Cup final. And we won't talk about that. Anyway, and then he decided after that year that he was going to scale back. So then I did kind of 20% of the games, and then the next year it was like 30. And then by 2016, he had said, you know what, I think I want to move on, and I want to spend some time down outside of Vegas. He had a place down there with his wife, and he goes, you want to take over full time? And I said, John, it's, it's your gig. I would be honored to do it. And when I said yes, he goes, as the first thing that he ever said to me the first time I met him when I was at CKNW at a high school was, well, welcome aboard. Just don't F it up. So, and of course we lost Ash in 2018, unfortunately, due to cancer. But he had such a huge positive impact on me, and his humor was just as, I just remember some of the things that he would say over his headset. We can't talk about it here, but it was fantastic.
That's awesome. Have you noticed that the players are different since you started, as in their relationship with you? Like, is it you getting older, so your relationship's different with them, or is it the way the player comes into the league now that it's different?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because if you talk to other public address announcers within the National Hockey League, they may have a different kind of relationship to the players than I might have. Some of them, still sit in the penalty box. Very few of them still sit in the penalty box. The ones that do, obviously, you've got somebody right there. So right. You can kibitz, you can have, a fun conversation. I've always been up on level 5 right next to the press box. When they built then GM Place, they kind of moved Ash up to the top, and you see a lot of buildings that have done that. Just because they don't have enough room in the penalty box area for kind of another body, because they throw all of the computer and analytics equipment and all that kind of stuff, time on ice stuff.
Right.
So my relationship with the players is I'm up there, they're down there playing. So I don't have a lot of interaction with them. I do when I MC and volunteer to go out to a lot of the Canucks charities that I'm.
That's where I would think that your relationships happen, is at outside of the rink and doing. Because I recognize your voice from doing those kind of things. So
so that's an opportunity for me to sit down and have dinner with these guys, or just introduce myself. I'm that voice that you hear from way up there announcing your name when you score,
and disappointment when you get a penalty. Do you ever get to go on the road? Have you ever been on the road with them?
Well, actually, I have. When the Canucks and LA Kings did the first China games. When we went over to China. So that was what, 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. We flew to China and played games in Shanghai and Beijing. Mm-hmm. So it was an opportunity to go on this fancy aircraft, this charter aircraft with, they had chefs on there. They had an open bar in the front. The guys were playing, poker, and it was really cool to kind of immerse yourself into that atmosphere. And it was an opportunity for me to act. Again, I had to take initiative to go up and say, "Hey, I'm that guy," And so sitting down and talking with a few of the players. A lot of the players aren't with the team anymore, but it was kind of fun for sure.
Do you gravitate when you go on something like that? Do you gravitate towards the suits more, the coaches more? Or do you try to introduce yourself to the players? Like,
I think a little bit of both. I mean, there was a lot of kind of executives that because they're not kind of in our game entertainment department, I wouldn't necessarily get to see a whole lot, because literally when I go into the rink, I get in, I park, walk to the rink, get into the elevator, go right up to level 5, get into my perch, with my director and floor director and all of the group that I work with, and then I'm there the whole game until the end, and then I'm down the elevator, walk back to the car, and head home.
That's a good. That brings it. How many people are on your team for that?
Gosh, it's quite a few. If you include all of the people in audio and lighting and special effects and graphics and producers and content people. But where I sit, I've got my show caller. So Stephen Van Voot, who is the show caller. So he kind of directs it, everything that's going to happen, in the intermissions, in timeouts, pre and post game kind of stuff. And then there's me, and then there's the floor director, and then there's a senior producer, and then there's the DAX operators, and those are the people that operate all of the signage and all of the kind of stuff that's on the rings in the arena and on the scoreboard. So they handle all of the sponsorship stuff. And then we've got interns, and then we've got other people kind of running it at all times, and stats people and all that kind of stuff. So on our row there, I would say there's about 8 or 9 people.
When you first started, 2 or 3 people?
No,
You said
there was
87, right? 87 was when you first started doing.
well, there was
No, no.
I mean, during COVID, you got to remember when we came back and we were doing it, we were doing the show with no fans in the building. There was only 4 of us.
Really?
There was only 4 of us. So that took a little bit more, of a team effort. And we've got an unbelievable crew that we work with. But when there's 4 of you, it changes the dynamic. And of course, you're basically doing it for television and for the players, because there's nobody watching in the stand. So, that was the oddest thing for me to ever do. It was kind of doing a constant rehearsal until fans kind of came back.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Have you noticed since in the 11 years since you started the amount of advertising that's going into the game, the way they're advertising? Do you find it takes away from the game, or are you like more excited by it, or because there's a little bit of each, right? So,
yeah, I think so. I mean, if they're going to put the upcoming season, they're going to start putting, advertisement on the jerseys and so on and so forth, and on their helmets and all that doesn't affect me at all. I mean, I just remember looking at, old footage of, like we just celebrated the anniversary of the 72, series against the USSR, and remember watching those games back then. And of course, even years later, seeing the boards all completely white. It's just the oddest thing to see. But advertising is what, what helps teams pay for the salaries and pay for the people that are working within the building and the organization. So, I mean, it's got to be there.
Right. It's great. Who's your favorite player on the team this year so far?
Oh, I can't say who my favorite player.
Oh, go ahead. I won't tell you.
Whisper. No.
Who are you excited about seeing?
Well, I'm always excited about seeing, Petey.
Who I want
Elias Pettersson. He's, you can see the work that he's put in over the summertime. He's bulked up, and he's just got so much confidence. You can just see it. And again, we're in preseason as you and I are talking right now. So preseason is preseason. Everyone kind of tackles it differently, but I'm excited about JT being signed long term. JT Miller being signed long term here because he was by far our best player last year. Thatcher Demko is, I mean, when you look at his season last year, he really kept us in that dogfight to potentially get us into the playoff. He was one of the main reasons why we had a chance to do that, and to look at the performances that he put in last year, and then have him say this year that he wasn't good enough. Like when you hear that, you understand that those guys, their mentality going into it is that, okay, I'm in the best hockey league in the world. I'm making a ton of money, but every day I want to get better. And when you hear that from those kind of players on your team, there's a leader. There's a guy that's going to bring people together. You're going to go to the wall to fight for these guys. So that's what I'm excited about.
That's interesting that you say all that, how they kept it in it and all things. I mumbled myself way through this. How is it for you? Like at the beginning of last year, I think it was Green got fired in January. When did he get fired?
After around December. Yeah, around December, I think.
How is it for you with the energy at the beginning of that, when the team is struggling and you're watching it struggle and the game might not be as exciting and the fans are struggling? Because I went to a game and I was like, ooh, the fans are struggling to pay attention to this. Does it affect you?
Well, no, I mean, our goal as a game presentation team is to put on the best show that we can, to help enhance what you're looking at on the ice. Now, if it's a terrible game, and the team's not playing well over long stretches, obviously you can feel it's almost, tangible. You can feel, the fans kind of going, oh, they're frustrated. But you got to remember the team and the players are way more frustrated than the fans are. They wanna win. That's why they're there. So it doesn't affect ours. Well, I've always said, if there's 40 people in the rink, or there's 40,000, at an outdoor game that I announce for the NHL, when I go do the Winter Classic or the Stadium Series or All-Star games or stuff like that, it doesn't matter to me. I approach it exactly the same way. 40 people, 40,000, it's the same for me.
That's great. I love it. Say I'm a kid and we've heard your story getting into it, and I want to do what you did, what's the direction I take now? Because I can't go sit in a lobby and just wait for them to walk by me and pick me.
Security.
Exactly. Would you say if somebody, they would like to be in the NHL doing what you do, they should be chasing other dreams as well, right? It's something that connects in. It's not a full-time job, but it is a job that gets you other things that makes it enhanced, right?
Right.
So the kid that doesn't play goalie anymore because it hurts, but still wants to be part of the game.
Yeah.
What would you suggest for him?
Her? Yes. I would suggest that if you want to get into being a public address announcer for any sport, doesn't have to be hockey. It could be lacrosse. It could be, volleyball. It could be whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I think it hasn't changed that much from the time when I first started. I mean, the breaks that I have, that have been afforded to me was due to persistence. And right. I think persistence is number one. Got to have a passion for it. Number three, if you're going to start, go down to your local rink. I'm telling you, they're going to have probably a really crappy microphone, and the sound system won't be that great. But at the end of the day, you're getting down. It's like doing reps, right? It's like being a professional athlete. So you got to do your reps. You got to get out there and you got to feel comfortable behind a microphone. You got to know the players on both teams. You got to understand the rules of the game and all that stuff. Volunteer, especially when you're younger, kind of pre-graduating high school, and just get out there and volunteer. I mean, I have set, certain people up with opportunities, in minor hockey and major midget and so on and so forth. And these people are taking great strides in there. And, because I'm trying to mentor some younger people, just like Ashbridge mentored me. I'm trying to do the same thing with these people, and they're doing fantastic. Now, you got to remember, there's only 32 NHL teams in the league. So, I mean, the chances of you
right.
getting that big job right now, but you got to just like the play-by-play people. Some of them stay in junior hockey or in the American Hockey League for decades, waiting for that shot to get in there. And then once they get that shot, that's when you have to shine.
I also think what you said earlier, will you go to Edmonton? Yes. Being open enough to go do something. It's very few guys get something by saying no at the beginning.
Right.
No comes later on when you get to a certain point. Will you do it for this much? No. All right, we'll give you that much. I know.
And it's funny because when you're younger, you never feel like you're ever going to reach that point.
Right.
And, right. And there's certain times, again, you being a comedian, actor, you're busy, and then you're not so busy.
Right.
So, you end up taking some jobs maybe that when you're really, really busy, you may not, want to do, but it's like, well, there's an opportunity and that could lead to something else and so on and so forth. Yeah.
You never know what's behind that other door. That's the thing that you have to, with entertainment. That's not A plus B equals C. It's
no way.
Some reason there's an F all of a sudden. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It moves to that usually pretty quickly.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, as a voice actor, I'm I get probably 12, 15 auditions a day for certain things, and which is great, those opportunities. But also, there's a few hundred other people that are, getting those same opportunities. And these days, it's really not about it is about how, proficient you are and how good you are, or if you're the right person for that particular job. But it's how fast you can get those auditions in. Right. That's the thing, because they don't want to listen to 200. They might listen to 20. So you've got to be getting those auditions in really fast.
You don't want to be number 200 because you're not even out opening up your email.
Nope.
You did some interesting stuff this summer. I noticed you were traveling with your family, but you also did a 3-on-3 tournament. Is it a tournament or a league that you got involved in?
It's a league. It's called 3 Ice, and it's a professional 3-on-3 hockey league. So it was started by E.J. Johnston. Mm-hmm. And he had this dream after watching 3-on-3 overtime hockey in the NHL and how much fun it was watching it, that you could possibly turn this into something that, that might be really fun to watch. And so he's been working on it for a number of years, and they started it this summer. It started in Vegas.
Mhm.
6 teams, guys that played, professional hockey, whether it be in the NHL or in Europe, or in, guys that didn't have contracts in the American Hockey League, guys that are from NCAA that unfortunately maybe didn't get drafted. So some really decent hockey players coming out. And basically the rules are you've got 2 8-minute halves running time.
Mhm.
It's nonstop action. If the puck hits the mesh behind the net and comes down, you keep playing it. If there's a penalty, you don't go to the penalty box. You get a penalty shot, and then the guys all line up in the blue line. Guy who's going to take the penalty shot skates up as soon as he touches the puck. Everyone can chase him down.
No way.
Like, I mean, the product on the ice is really exciting to watch. It was a lot of fun to do. So we were in Vegas, we were in Denver, Grand Rapids, Hershey, which is such a hotbed for hockey still.
Oh yeah.
London, Ontario, Quebec City, Pittsburgh, Nashville, and then we wrapped it up with the finals, where one team took home their share of $1 million, which is pretty
That's
decent,
great.
pretty decent for 9 weekends of work. But the coaches, I mean, this was the really fun thing for me too, was the coaches. Guy Carbonneau, Grant Fuhr, Brian Trottier, John LeClaire, Larry Murphy, Joe Mullen, Craig Patrick was the commissioner of the league.
Oh, they pulled some really good, interesting names. Some really, it's funny if you have a good idea, you can get people to come along.
Yeah, and I mean, so they signed a 2-year deal with CBS Sports in the States. So it was broadcast, and everyone that watched it absolutely loved it. So it was the same production crew that hired me to do the NHL games, like the Winter Classics and the Stadium Series and the Heritage Classic and All-Star. Same production crew that work on all of those the games for the NHL. They were also hired to kind of be the game presentation producers. So they asked me if I was interested in being a part of it. So I did 5 of the 9 tour stops because I wanted to have a few weekends off in the summer. But it was a lot of fun. And listen, again, one of the best parts is like after the game, you go to the bar afterwards and have a nice cold one, and you're sitting next to Brian Trottier and Joe Mullen and Grant Fuhr and Craig Patrick, and you just listen. I mean, the stories, it's just, as a kid growing up, these were your idols, and you're sitting next to a guy having a beer, listening to, how it was going to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, it was pretty cool.
I think that's something NHL needs to remember is we need to be able to, these kids can't turn into robots. There's gotta be, they always say, how do you ride serious and fun? I think they're getting a little bit hard with the serious, even though great attitudes, fun guys to watch right now. Very funny. I get concerned about them not having a way to have a release valve, and the release valve they need is with the people that watch hockey too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got to have fun, because some of these places, these kids are just getting yelled at the whole time. Like,
I mean, it's a lot of pressure on these young guys coming up.
They're so young. They're so young. It's just mental health. It's huge on these guys.
Yeah,
I think that's such a fun idea, though. Not being like at like that high, everybody's a robot, and being down here and going out and having beers and seeing a product that is still worth it.
Yeah. And I think, the Canucks are and have been, and I think kind of lead the way in the National Hockey League with community, with having their players. If you want to come to Vancouver, you want to sign with Vancouver, that's great. Here's, we'll pay you what, we've agreed upon, but you also have to be a part of our community team, meaning that you have to get out there, be a part of the Canucks Autism Network and Canuck Place and BC Children's Hospital and all of the great things that the Vancouver Canucks and Canuck Sports and Entertainment do in the community. And that's when you really see them come out of their shell. When we do the dice and ice, the poker and all of that fun thing, that we do once a year. And it gives hockey fans an opportunity to listen, sit at a blackjack table or a craps table. It's fake money. It's not real, but you get to sit next to Petey and Bo Horvat and, Oliver Ekman-Larsson and just talk about life, right? You don't have to talk about hockey.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that goes back to the Griffiths family, all that stuff. Like they really embedded into that community right away. And not just that community, that whole province that's a Vancouver Canuck province, even though there might be some weirdos that outskirt to the Edmonton Oilers and stuff like that. But it's
Well, and don't forget about these guys.
oh yeah. Yeah.
The Canucks alumni, and that's where we first,
nice.
that's where we first met, because you were helping out with one of the luncheons that the Canucks alumni put on each year to fundraise for their charities as well. And
I love the alumni. I love how many guys stayed in town. I just it was so much fun doing that event and then being punched by Tiger Williams. It was better.
I tell you,
I was just like, oh, I guess that's the way it's gonna happen.
yeah. He's no different on the ice than he says he is on the ice. But again, characters, the guys that are able to, to communicate and weave stories that they must have told a billion times, but people still want to come up and talk about, them going to the finals in the 80s and the 90s, and they're not afraid of talking about it.
I love that the alumni they talked to me and they said, this is what we'd like to do. And I gave them a little bit of an idea and they went with it. And it was so much fun. And the idea was that every table got an alumni player. And I was going to do a little bit of a roast, but at the same time, I was going to bring in stories from the table. So I was out and it was so much fun. It was just so, I hope they bring me back again, because just hearing Stan Smeal tell the stories and then there's just guys around that would just start talking about these stories and beating each other up and playing hockey.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite ones is when you're talking about when Ron Delorme, you're talking about Ronnie. And Ronnie was, it's still to this day, I think, one of the toughest guys on the planet. I mean, he's got such a great, quiet, calm demeanor to him, as a lot of those guys did.
Yeah.
But to hear him talk about, some of the fisticuffs that he was involved with back in the day is a lot of fun to listen to.
I love it. I got two more questions I want to get to. I want to get to your favorite outside of hockey voiceover job that you've gotten.
Well, it's probably the current television show that I'm working on. Everyone remembers Judge Judy.
Never heard of it.
So Judge Judy has left kind of terrestrial television. She sold all of her shows off, and she's moved on to do a new show called Judy Justice. Mm-hmm. And it's streamed now through Amazon. It used to be IMDb TV, now it's Freevee. And so I am the announcer, in-show announcer on the show. Oh, so it's 120 episodes of just, it's Judge Judy. She's just she's an amazing talent. The show is fun to be a part of, and the best part about it is, it's being produced in Los Angeles, and I'm here in my studio here just outside of Vancouver, and I'm voicing all of the intros, and Ian Bagg is suing his neighbor for this, and
I'm right, I am.
And the neighbor is countersuing for this. And it's so that's probably kind of currently the funnest thing that I'm doing outside of the PA announcing that I do. But some of the national and international television commercials that I did. I mean, to get a commercial that runs on the Super Bowl, mm-hmm. I mean that's a bucket list, and I did that a number of years ago through a Bud Light.
A bucket full of money too. Congratulations.
Well, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Good for you. Good for you. So my last question is, and it's a kind of a story, and it's kind of one of the funniest things I've ever seen happen in Canucks play in what's it called right now? It was GM Place, now it's Rogers Arena.
Rogers Arena.
Right, and the funniest thing I've ever seen, that you guys had an anthem singer, and he decided that he was going to skate around one night and sing the anthem, and he forgot about the carpet being on the ice and took a header into the ice.
Yeah.
Were you working that night, and how did you deal with it? And has there ever been anything funnier?
I mean, not in recent history was anything that that humorous, and that actually happened in Penticton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that happened at the we have the Young Stars tournament that we have.
I always thought it was in Vancouver.
No, it was, I think I'm almost for sure it was at the Young Stars, that we have kind of pre-training camp where some of the prospects come, from Calgary and Edmonton and Winnipeg and Vancouver, and they all go there. And then it was an anthem singer that we used on a regular basis for many, many years.
How did he sell that idea though?
You know what? I have no idea. I don't know. And he was wearing a tuxedo too, which is classic. And with tails. So as he as unfortunately as he tripped over the carpet that he didn't see coming as he's skating around the ice singing the national anthem, like he took a header and then the flip of the back of the of the coat. I mean, but guess what? As any professional would do, he got right back up. Finished the anthem.
He totally Chris rocked it. He totally Chris rocked it. He got right back up and finished it. But it was so Mr. Bean like. It was.
Oh my gosh, it was.
Because it starts off, why is he on skates?
Yeah.
Pretty good. Does he still sing the national anthem?
No. That's I don't make the decisions on the anthem singers. I just introduce them. As one producer always tells me, as I work on, other events and some professional sports events, at the end of the day, the producer just looks at me and goes, just say the words, clown. Just say the words. And I go, okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Al. We'll all get on the Judge Judy train and start listening to your voice and sue each other.
Judy Justice. It's the new show.
Sorry, Judy Justice. Yeah. JJ, right?
JJ.
I love it.
Yeah.
If you're in Vancouver, make sure you go see a game and listen to that voice. It's so memorable. It's so fantastic. Anything else you want them to know about these people that listen to this show? Usually with Jeff and I
didn't rate a Jeff appearance, but that's okay. I had so many questions for him too, man. I mean, Kelowna Rocket.
Oh yeah.
Portland Winterhawk,
Yeah, he's a very good hockey player. Now flies planes around the world against a very busy young man, and he's such a good player. And we had Corey on last week. Corey Hirsch.
I did watch that. That was very good. I mean, it's again, those are the types of conversations that over a water cooler, over a beer, or whatever, to hear some of the stories from those kind of guys. And Corey's such a great guy who's come, he's come a long way. He went through a dark period in his life, and he sure has done well for himself. And of course, now he's as any good kid from Canada, he's picked up a hockey stick.
Right.
He's out there trying to help others. So
he is trying to help out others, and he's doing very well for himself, and tries hard, and that's what counts. It puts it in. So yeah. Thanks, Al.
Thank you, Ian.
Have a good day.
I always do.
That was great. He's so, his voice is just, there's guys, it's unbelievable how great some people's voices sound. It's just a different level of whatever. I wish I had it, but he sounds great, and congratulations to him on all his success, and thank you for dropping by. I look forward to seeing him again. Jeff and I will be back next week. Jeff will be back. I want to give a shout out to Jeff this week. My shout out to Jeff. I want to thank him for being part of the show, and he's going to be back next week. But I just want to thank him for being part of the show, because without him, it's completely different. I enjoy doing this so much. And Jeff has been in my life. I know, and it sounds like we're dating right now, but my life since I was a little kid. And it's pretty cool that I get to do it. So my shout out is to Jeff Sharples, my co-host of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. And also Brian Almy. Without Brian, we couldn't do this. So thank you, everybody. Make sure you drop by superdeeker.com. Use some sort, I think, orange slices or something, get a discount. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.